Jadanem and Joe walk home with Megan and Isaiah, answering their questions about the prophecy of the four, the pencil, and what they need to do as best they can. Megan and Isaiah are freaked out and frightened at the thought of fighting some godlike being that has it out to kill them all. But Joe and Jadanem do their best to reassure them. They part ways after seeing Megan and Isaiah home. Joe and Jadanem talk about what an overwhelming day this has been and wondering how they are going to manage everything. There are no easy answers for any of it, but Joe comments that together they can make it through and again restates his vows to keep Jadanem safe no matter what. This all makes Jadanem very happy, which seems to make Joe very happy, and they seem to be growing closer and closer to one another. Then outside their house, Max pops out of a bush, startling them. They scold Max for taking their dinner, a charge Max claims to know nothing about. Max does praise them for finding the other half of the four and advises that training and preparation needs to begin immediately. But Jadanem and Joe want more answers before they go along with these plans any further. Max concedes and they head inside the house. Max tells Jadanem and Joe his life story. When he was younger, he was an independent young man searching for a greater truth to devote himself to. He stumbled upon the truth and then managed to find a way to travel to other realities. And doing so, he caught the eye of a secret society monitoring all realities as best they could, the Council of Radon. They took him in and opened his eyes, ears, and mind to even greater heights, and he had found his calling, what he had been searching for to devote his life to. The purpose of the Council of Radon and all their monitoring was to keep a watchful eye on the pencil. Whenever a pencil became too destructive or abusive with their powers, the council would spring into action to rein them in. This system of checks and balances seemed to work for centuries, but then the current pencil came into power. He began to hunt down the various members of the Council of Radon and eliminate them, to further remove any obstacles to a sinister plan. He isn't sure how many of the Council of Radon was left, but his last orders were to do all that he can to stop the pencil's plans, and what better way than getting the four ready for the battle ahead. As best he can anyways, before the pencil eventually catches up with him to eliminate him as well. Joe and Jadanem ask what is the pencil's plan. Max states it simply, to end all reality, all existence, till all that is left is a void, a blank page for him to write and guide to his will. Very, very ominous. Max emphasizes this is why it is so important that training and preparation begin, because so much is at stake. He tells them that in case he is not around to assist them when the pencil arrives, they need to learn how to defeat the pencil. He explains that the pencil carries a book with him, one that has been kept by every and all pencils that have existed. When someone else signs their name in the ledger of the book, they become the new pencil, with all of its powers and responsibilities, and the old one fades from existence. Battling the pencil takes a team because the pencil has to be distracted, occupied, or pinned down for one to have the opportunity to sign his book and defeat him. Well, this is all heavy stuff that is blowing Jadanem and Joe's minds. They ask how will they know when the pencil arrives, and Max assures them that they will know and they will be afraid. Louis and Mick hang out before school, shooting the breeze. Louis wishes something big could happen at the school because nothing ever seems to happen in Terp at all. Louis wants to make something happen, but he doesn't know what. Mick comments that what they need is a school dance to liven everything up. And like that, a light bulb goes off in Louis's head. That's it! Louis will organize a school dance and make his legacy in Terp High School by being the guy who made something happen. Mick admits he was just suggesting it because he was thinking of all the girls he could hit on at the dance. But Louis is not deterred from his plans. Meanwhile, Jadanem wakes up tired and hungry. But, what's that? She smells food! Jadanem finds Joe in the kitchen preparing breakfast. They both dig into the breakfast and chat about their favorite breakfast foods and how their morning routines usually went. Jadanem feels a bit homesick thinking about her old life in the face of what is ahead of them. but Joe does his best to cheer her up and reassure her that they will get through it. Elsewhere, Megan is not a happy camper and does not want to go to school. Isaiah is much more upbeat, especially for a teenager who found out that they may have to fight for the sake of all realities everywhere, and does his best to coax Megan along, mostly because he really wants to go see Sarah. Well, that is not a winning strategy, and Megan has a meltdown of sorts, screaming that she's scared of being away from home alone with some wannabe playboy in some alternate universe where some psycho guy with godlike powers wants to kill them and can show up and make it so. She yells at Isaiah to leave her alone and slams the door to her room. Isaiah is kind of bummed out by all of this and leaves for school on his own. Sad. At lunch, Jadonam and Joe are sitting with Isaiah and asking him where Megan is. Isaiah sighs and tells them about Megan not coming to school because of how freaked out she is over everything going on. Isaiah then drops a bombshell that he doesn't think the two of them staying in the same place is working out very well and is pretty bummed out over it. Jadonam reluctantly tries to do what she thinks is the right thing to do and suggests that maybe they should switch places. Isaiah stay with Joe in one house and Megan stay with Jadonam in another house. Joe is stunned by the suggestion from Jadonam and does his best to put on a brave face despite not being happy with this idea at all. Isaiah, on the other hand, is all over this, thinks it's a great idea, and begins listing all kind of bachelor pad fantasies involving parties and girls, and has overall perked up tremendously. Jadonam instantly regrets suggesting it since Isaiah bit on it so quickly, but tries to put on a brave face as well. She is also stunned by Joe, who is trying to put on a happy front, and thinks Joe is happy about the idea and maybe doesn't want to be around her anymore. Ay, ay, ay. Meanwhile, Megan is moping around the house depressed, trying to process everything that is happening. She keeps getting distracted by thoughts of Isaiah running around with Sarah and other girls and being a playboy when there comes a knocking on the door. Megan remembers the pencil situation and is quickly frightened about who it might be, but her fears are unfounded as it is Helen there to visit her. Megan is happily surprised to see her, and Helen says she heard Megan was sick and she thought she'd swing by to see how Megan is doing. Elsewhere, Jadonam, Joe, and Isaiah are walking home from school and hashing out the details of the move. They agree to do it tomorrow, and Isaiah says he will inform Megan of it. Neither Jadonam or Joe offer any late protest to the move, and they both take it as the other not wanting to be living with the other anymore. Megan and Joe leave Isaiah at his house, both keeping happy fronts while despairing inside. Isaiah calls out for Megan, but finds a note instead saying she is out with Helen. Helen is giving Megan the grand tour of Turf, showing her what meager amount of sights there are to see around the town. They chat all the while, and Megan admits she wasn't sick. She just has been stressed out with the new situation, which she doesn't go into details about, not wanting to freak out the locals with the pencil stuff. Megan asks about Isaiah and what Megan's relationship is with him since they're in the same house. Megan nervously laughs it off and says he's just an acquaintance from the town they're from and it's just a temporary living arrangement while things are sorted out for them. Yeah. Helen seems to buy the cover story and tells Megan how Sarah seems to be really fond of Isaiah, possibly crushing on him. This stabs Megan right deep in her heart, but she does her best not to show this. Helen seems kind of bothered by it, but nervously changes the subject as they continue on. Meanwhile, Jadonam and Joe are getting what few things they've acquired in Terp so far together and are preparing for the move. They both try to make happy small talk and smile a lot, but both are really depressed inside, thinking they really were making a connection before, but maybe it wasn't real since they're both think the other is happy to move out. It's communication. Back to Megan and Helen. They arrive at Megan's house to find Sarah, Nina, Louis, and Mick hanging out with Isaiah. Isaiah explains that they have been studying and catching up on things, and they invite Megan and Helen to join them. They do, and Megan is putting on a happy face, but inside she is raging. When it is all over and everyone leaves, Isaiah tries to talk with Megan, but she says she's tired and goes to her room. Isaiah tells her through the door about the move. Isaiah's going to stay with Joe. Jedidiah coming to stay there with Megan and asks if it's okay with her. Megan claims to not care, and Isaiah shrugs and goes to his room. But Megan is quietly crying in hers at the news.